fingers, toes, everything crossed that this is working and we'll be able to get this stream underway for round 2 of the International Racing League season. And I'm hoping that it's not going to look as stretched as the preview does. I'm not promised by what I can see at the moment. I would be right to not be promised. Okay, how does that look? Is that any better? Because I just have to wait a little bit for it to update on my own services as well as the stream. I'm not quite sure why it looks stretched. Who've just joined us and are ready for another round of the International Racing League season, round number 2. We were at Las Vegas last time out, and now we are headed to the Singapore Grand Prix. 2 night races to start us off in this season, which, you know, it's not the end of the world. Right, you know what is the end of the world? The fact that this ain't working. Ricky's going to win today, you reckon? Get your predictions in the chat if, of course, you're not one of the drivers out on circuit at the moment, as we just try to get this stream sorted out. Fingers crossed we can. As my Xbox, oh no, my Xbox, my computer is exploding, which is always good. It's always nice to hear. That's even worse, I'd argue. And before, what did I stream on? Was it that? See, this isn't different on my end, which is the issue. I'm trying to sort it out on the end of the stream. As apologies, we will get racing underway just as soon as it doesn't look goofy. Fingers crossed. No. All right. I'm going to pull the stream for now while I just get this sorted out. Because I cannot get it sorted out unless the stream is paused. So apologies for this. Okay, any better? It'll be starting like but, Why is it? We've got 9 minutes left in this session. Aha, it worked! It worked! I don't know why it didn't add order. I don't care. It's worked. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. And we're ready to get action underway for round number 2. Finally, we're ready to get action underway. International Racing League season. We are some very loud game sounds. At Singapore. Yeah, the reason the reason the game sounds are too loud, I'll tell you why. It's because I've got a new capture card, and we're testing it out tonight. So Elgato is hopefully coming in clutch here, just making it simple because the capture card I had before was not ideal. I think it's fair to say. We've got the fastest lap at the moment is a 27.0 set by Unksu, 0.2 ahead of Director Ole. As Game Infinity comes around the final corner, he's set to purple sector 1, but 7th place is where he goes, 1.3 seconds off the pace, so I think it may have been a visual glitch more than anything. You do get a lot of timing visual glitches in this game. That is one of the biggest concerns that we have with it. Killer Zombie is in the pits. Fastest lap, a 31.1. Chuck Norris with a 31.2 is trying to improve on that lap. Astube hasn't set a lap yet. And nor has Uncle Lando or Lone Star. Loop Racer is improving by 0.2 of a second. Well, about a quarter of a second. And we'll be trying to improve even more. Got to find about 0.6 of a second in order to close in and in order to try to topple Unxu in the Haas at the top of the standings. We saw Gaming Infinity with a purple sector, but not able to hook it all up, ending up with a 28-3. As I'm hoping the fact that I haven't got any update from chat means that all the audio is fine and all sorted. I feel like I can turn up the game audio a little bit, to be honest. As Loop Racer comes round at the final corner. It's a 27-0, so he did find that time. And pole position goes the way of the V-Carb at the moment. So that's a solid attempt from him. And with just under 7 minutes left in the session, they're going to try to beat what is now the new benchmark. Ashtube across the line with the slowest time of all, a 31.9. Uncle Lando is in that second sector, just coming on to the third one. Second sector split time was a 1:04. Which isn't too bad. Coming through this section, they've changed it within the last year or so. And, well, I mean, they've changed it for the purposes of restructuring. That bridge is, the bridge section has been removed. It will come back, I believe, next season in 2026. But at the moment, it's not there. And Uncle Lando now goes into the top 10 with a 29.5 Loop Races on an in-lap. Uncle Lando will now head on to his in-lap. Chuck Norris is on an in-lap, and Ashtube is pushing 1.2 seconds up, I believe that was, in the V-Carb as he heads through this first sector, or not even first sector, second sector even, but he's going to come on to the third at the end of this straight after he gets through the third DRS straight of this lap. There's quite a few straights here, 3 seconds up for Ashtube, 3.3 to be exact, and the V-Carb off to a pretty solid start so far. And we'll see where he ends up with Loop Racer at the top. His teammate with a 27.028. He is 100th and a half ahead of Unxu. Ashtube with just one more corner to go. It's flat out if you dare for the number 9 V-Carb. And up to the line comes Ashtube and sets a 27.6. So slotting right into the mid-pack in that 6th place. But still 6/10 off of his teammate at the very top. Lone Star, the only driver now to have not set a time. And he heads through the second sector. He's just come out of the first. And the Mercedes, who's also trying to match a strong teammate's pace, his teammate being De Echte Ole in third place. Exactly 2/10 behind Loop Racer on the top as we have just ticked under 5 minutes left in the session. And Lone Star has a sector to go before he sets his first valid run. We'll see what sort of time it is as he comes across the split. It's a 1:02. So a decent time, and can he hook it up in this final sector now as he heads through, keeping it nice and flat, a foot to the floor and then just braking. Just that little bit heading through this difficult segment where you've just got to get that traction right. Around the final corner for Lone Star. What sort of time is the Mercedes able to set? A 26.6. That is by far the fastest lap of this race by 4 whole tenths. Teammate De Echte Ole goes into second place. And the track evolution has been insane here tonight, with the 2 Mercedes going up at the top, 2/10 quicker than Loop Racer at the moment. We'll see where that ends up stacking up, with everybody else coming now with 4 minutes left on the session, and Ricky Maru, who has been the chat's prediction so far for this race victory, who currently sits in 5th place, has improved by 2/10 of a second. Will improve more in this second sector if there is no mistakes made for the Ferrari heading through the Singapore sling. Almost slung it into the wall, but ends up coming out of the other side of that moment A-OK, and will now attempt to come up to the second sector split time. What will it be? It'll be an improvement by a 1/4 of a second. I believe that is the fastest time we've seen as what was our pole position sitter after the first stint. Unxu comes back into the session and gets ready to go once again. It's crunch time here in Singapore under the lights. And can Ricky Maru hook it up? Can he just get it hooked up and get up to the top of the times? No, can't even get out of the 27s, which was or would have been the target for the Ferrari. So get ready, go again for one final lap time is the objective. Everybody is just gonna try and loop round to the pits. Ricky might not even make it to said pits. Gaming Infinity might also not make it to those pits. but this final run is 3/10 quicker in the first 2 sectors than anything done before. By this Haas, at least. The other one sitting in P4 at the moment, just outside of the 26s. Now Gaming Infinity. One more braking zone. Can he get through it nice and simply? Yes, indeed he can. And he will come out to that final corner with a lap time on the board. That lap time will end up being a 27 or a 28.0. Not quite dropping into the 27s as MCH comes into the pits and might be the end of the Red Bull session unless he's able to get out nice and quickly. Killer Zombie, one of the chasing pack. You got 3 in the 29s at the moment. Killer Zombie will look to improve from that position, and the McLaren now has one more braking zone to go on this lap until we will see where he ends up, as just one more corner to go now. But no, we'll come into the pits. That is surely the end of the McLaren session. That's a very bold call to come in. Looking further up at De Hector Ole, who's improving in that first 2 sectors. And if he can find a 10th in this third one, he will be taking that, at least provisional, pole position away from his teammate Lone Star. Lone Star, who will not be improving on that time. He's coming out of the pits now, but it's also late for the Mercedes. De Hector Ole losing time in that final sector and losing out to Lone Star by a 10th and a half. Ricky Maru heading through the first sector. What sort of time is the Ferrari doing? It's a 2/10 deficit to the previous time. Gaming Infinity preparing for a final lap. Chuck Norris has just gone 1.2 seconds faster, and now the time is on. It is just, it's time for these final runs to be slotted in. I'm not sure whether Chuck Norris is going for another push lap. I think it would be very bold if he did do indeed that, but we'll see as he comes up to the split time of the first sector. No, he's a second down, so we'll switch to Ricky, one of the favourites for this race, as he comes up to the second sector split time, and it's not quite an improvement. That's a 10th of a second that he is down, but a purple second sector means that he just lost some time in that first one, and we'll see where Ricky stacks up against the rest of the field. He'll have that slipstream off of Uncle Lando ahead of him in that McLaren, but I'm not sure actually whether he is close enough. The camera angle seems to suggest so, but this camera angle would suggest otherwise, as Ricky up to the line now. Big slide out of the final corner really cost him that time. Sticky Icky, teammates of Ricky in this race, currently sits in 6th place, will be on the same row as Ricky unless he can improve in this sector. That is provisionally, as he's 5/10 down on Ricky Maru, so there is a lot of time to find for those 6th and down. But the targets will be the 26s. Sticky Icky up to the second sector split time, improving by 2/10. And the 26s are well and truly on for the Ferrari if he can hook up this final sector. As Unxu goes fastest, 5/10 improvement for the Haas driver, and he nabs that pole position, and that front row start off of De Hector Ole and the 2 Mercedes, who are now no longer locking out the front of that field. The checkered flag is waved. Sticky Icky around the final corner. It's a 27.2. It's not the improvement that he would have been searching for. Ash Tube will come around the final corner, improving by half a second. Almost jumps in to the 26s, not quite though, as PRS TKM will be the next man up to the line. And up to the line he does come and jumps into the 27.994. ARL is looking to go even quicker than that. 27.3 is the target. A 26.8 is what the Alpine does. So a lot of time found in that final sector, and he will be starting on that 4th place. Uncle Lando comes up to the final corner, and I'm not sure where he stacks up. We will see in a second, as it'll come up 12th for Uncle Lando, but pole position for the Haas driver of Unxu. And what a lap that was, a 26.5, taking it by over a 10th of a second ahead of Lone Star and just under 3/10 of a second ahead of De Hector Ole, and then just over 3/10 of a second to ARL. Then it's the 2 Visa Cash App RBs in 5th and 6th. The 2 Ferraris 7th and 8th. So they will be, Ricky and Sticky Icky will be starting on the same row of the grid. Then it's TKM in 9th. Gaming Infinity splitting the 2 Red Bulls in 10th, with Uncle Lando in 12th. Chuck Norris in 13th. Nutter in 14th. And then Killer Zombie rounding out a 15-car grid here tonight. So not a bad qualifying and the race is just around the corner, but that will throw something into the preparations of the drivers. It is wet here in Singapore. I believe it might be intermediate conditions for now at least, and we will see where they end up. But it is not where he would have wanted to see, or he being every driver of this grid, they would not have wanted to see that, as they will not have prepared for the intermediate conditions. It's very rare that you get sort of middly conditions here in Singapore. But having said that, we had rain at Bahrain a couple of weeks ago, so it's altogether unsurprising. Our championship leader, Callum, not racing today, and so we will see. We'll see a new championship leader. It will not be our champion from last season, Beyond Bar, as he didn't score any points last time out, so he would have had to have a perfect weekend, but he is not racing here tonight. The highest person actually that is racing is going to be the McLaren of Nike. Is indeed racing, and therefore will look to take that championship lead away from anybody else. I'm just trying to have a look because Nike doesn't appear to have a username next to their name. I'm trying to remember back to last week, but my memory is absolutely shocking. I think it's fair to be said, considering the fact that I don't remember who it was in second place. It was Uncle Lando. So, I mean, he's racing tonight. He'll be starting from almost the back of the grid, but able to put in what was a decent lap towards the end comparatively, starting from 12th place. Better than the teammate, at least. The teammate sitting in 15th and last, and Killer Zombie will be trying to fight back from the rear of said field. But we are just having a break while the drivers go to the toilet, get ready, do any of their preparations they need to do in order to go quicker. I mean, get rid of things and you'll go quicker. And if you don't get rid of things before the race, you'll lose things within the race, because that is just the way that Singapore is. It's a very, very demanding circuit, and I wouldn't be surprised. Looking to make amends after last week's mess with the game crashing, says ARL. And yes, I do remember that. In fact, that is one of the things I do remember, having internet issues. 4th place for ARL after what was a comparatively poor first run, but an incredible second run that saw him into 4th place and just outside of the 26s. The lead PlayStation driver here tonight will look to try to fight his way through the field. I mean, we've got a little bit of carnage that should be lying ahead of us with intermediate conditions, which will throw the spanner into the works and the preparation of the drivers. I will now try to get the weather forecast so we can see what happens, or what will likely be happening. I will send us to a short intermission, but it will not be that long at all. I can pinky promise you that. We're all watered up. We're all ready to get going for what should be an exciting race in the International Racing League. And I've spoken to my weather forecasters, and they have deemed that it is going to stop raining halfway through the race, which means strategy is going to be the name of the game here around Singapore. It's going to be It's going to be interesting. I think we are going to see, even if it doesn't dry up enough to go to dry tyres, I think we are still going to be seeing drivers chancing it in this race. Because, of course, why not? Especially if you're sort of out of contention for it. Absolutely, why not attempt to try to battle for something, to try to maybe just fight through. But we will see. Tonight is set to be an interesting race, and we are set to get going in about a minute's time, and then the 5 lights will happen, and then they will go off, and the drivers will tackle a wet race or a damp race here at Singapore. As it's not necessarily a circuit we see very often having rain, as I mentioned before, but you know, you never know. It's the F1 game throws things up. But tell you what, I'm going to try to throw up. I'm going to try and crop like that. Never mind, I won't throw up the graphic, but just to let you know that we are. Well, to be fair, I don't really want to get it in the way of the racing in case we do get going and I'll have to interrupt myself. But 5.063 kilometers, 3.147 miles, 3 DRS zones and 19 corners is what the Singapore Grand Prix is comprised of. It's a pretty flat circuit, and it's a very pretty circuit in itself. The original night race that played host to a fair few controversial moments. Talk about Crashgate in 2008 as being the main one, and that race, well, it's the result is still not decided in that one. Has anybody chanced it onto dries? I'd be surprised if they did. No, they haven't, and we will all be starting on intermediate conditions. And the 5 lights are very, very, very soon to go out. And we have been given the message to ready up to get going. And the Singapore Grand Prix is just about to get underway. So you're going to want to stick around and you're going to want to watch this race start. It's the start of a race. Action-packed. And the action is about to get underway. As changeable conditions will throw things up. Strategies will be attempted. Bold calls will be made. And they will start with the 5 red lights for the Singapore Grand Prix. And it's action here in Marina Bay. Unxu gets off to a strong start. Lone Star will try to take that inside line into turn 1, but will be pressured more by his teammate Hector Olay around the outside as they head through the first sector. Lone Star clinging onto that inside line, and he is going to hold that position. It's Techi, though, in terms of an exit, and Hector Olay could look down the inside. He doesn't make the move. Luke Racer and ARL are side by side on the exit. Who's going to take that advantage? It's going to be ARL who maintains that P4, and Luke Racer could come under pressure from Ash Tube. That is if Ash isn't coming under pressure from Ricky Maru, who's trying to make that move, but it's just too much curbing taken, and they'll have to back out of it as that is contact between MCH and Uncle Lando, and that is TKM, who finds himself in the wall. The first virtual safety car is already out on lap 1 of this Grand Prix, and it's thanks to TKM just finding himself in the wall, and also contact between TKM's teammate MCH and Uncle Lando as they are battling for P10. Don't think there was any damage, none for Uncle Lando and none for MCH, so they are ready to get going again. The only driver who isn't TKM is at the back of the field. Nutter as well is missing a front right end plate, so I said it would be action-packed, and we've had action from minute 1 here in Singapore. And as they're taking the racing line, it will be more defined. The gambles, the moves will be more of a gamble than anything. And at the moment, somebody's going to have to gamble quite hard to catch up to Unxu. The Las Vegas Grand Prix was last week, but the gambling will continue as Unxu just tries to not get that drive-through penalty. The drive-through will be critical at this point in the race because that would just put you on the back foot as we are back to green flag racing. Nobody's got that drive-through, but Nutter and Chuck Norris. Well, Nutter's coming into the pits. Chuck Norris will try to make his way round, but it's not been the Williams' day, and he will hope for some more safety cars. I'm sure we'll get them as we head into turn number 3, and we head out of it with no major incident up the top. As almost a major incident for Luke Racer, who almost lost it into the barriers. There's no damage sustained by that RB, but I'm sure we'll be seeing damage later on as they are all separating now. This is a beautiful, beautiful race, by the way, that we've got on our hands. MCH trying to fight back on Uncle Lando, trying to make it a cleaner move this time, and he's been able to make it, but sending it on the exit means that Uncle Lando will fight through, and it's not going to be deja vu for these two as Uncle Lando gets up into P10. But this race looks so much better than any of the races before, and that is thanks to my new capture cards. So just be grateful you are the first ones experiencing this higher quality stream that we have on our hands. But we've still got the F124 game, so we've still got the issues that come with racing on the F124 game. The first one being the glitches on the timing screens, but that's not a glitch on the timing screen. That is TKM, who's repaired his front wing, making his way past Nutter. The battle for P14 is on between these two drivers, and well, there you go. You can see some possible race strategies. 3-stop would be bold on the Inters. I think they're just going to stretch this first stint. I think it's going to be relatively boring in terms of this first stint. They're just going to try to keep it out of the walls and keep those intermediates running. But a couple of flare-ups from those rears, a couple of slides like Unsu had out of the final corner, and that could cost you a lot of time, and that could cost you as well a lot of tyre wear. Lone Star is closing in on Unsu, demonstrated by the fastest lap taken by the Mercedes on the previous lap, lap 2 of the Grand Prix, and it was the fastest of anybody's runs in that lap time, and that was just pure pace demonstrated by the Mercedes. We've already got our first 3-second time penalty of this race, and that is Uncle Lando down in P10, and will be losing time, hoping that everybody else though will pick up those 3 seconds as Lone Star maybe shapes up a move on Unsu. No, trying to make a mistake out of the Haas and trying to make the Haas look a fool, but at the moment it is not working. The top two 1.6 seconds ahead of De Ector Ole in 3rd place, as he just didn't get off to a great start. Did the second Mercedes, and Lone Star in P2 was able to take that advantage. It's the two Mercedes sitting 2 and 3 at the moment, as we've got 11 viewers in here. So hello to everybody who is joining us on this stream. We had 9 at the start of the race, so it cannot all be drivers as Nutter comes into the pits once again. There's another front wing going on for the Kick Sauber, and suddenly they'll be starting to look at their wallet and look at how many of those front wings they have left, as I believe it might just be in contact with the wall. Chuck Norris hasn't come into the pits, has he? Where am I looking? No, he hasn't come into the pits yet. So the hit on the wall did not cause any damage for the Williams, and he will just continue on 7 seconds behind Killer Zombie, who's 5 seconds off of MCH, and that is where the chasing pack picks up once again. Its fastest lap traded back to Unsu on lap 3 of this race, and Lone Star sitting just behind him at the moment. There's a move made for P number 5, but Ashtube is going to try and fight this one back against Ricky Maru. Ashtube has that line that's starting to develop, that dry line that's starting to develop, but Ricky Maru somehow picking up that traction on the exit, and the Ferrari makes its way into P5, but a struggle on the exit did open up an opportunity for Ashtube, but struggle on the exit for the V-Carb himself meant that the position was sealed for Ricky Maru for P number 5, and he's now sitting 6/10 behind ARL, who doesn't have the slipstream on De Ector Ole. Ashtube now trying to close in 5/10 behind Ricky Maru. Ricky losing that time to ARL in the corners, but gaining it back just that little bit on the straights. It's a difference in setups, as I believe the wings will be quite high here around Singapore, which is I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, but if anybody's gone for lower wing setups, they will be making these moves just like Sticky Icky almost does, so almost outbreaking himself into the hairpin and coming out of the other side of it with a huge deficit to Gaming Infinity, a bigger deficit than he would have wanted to see. And right behind him, he's got Uncle Lando, who will want to fight forward. Never mind, Uncle Lando is out of the race, so that is commentator's curse absolutely enacted. And it is the first safety car of this Singapore Grand Prix. Lap 4 is when it comes out, and it's due to partially myself. But Uncle Lando crashing out of this Grand Prix, just barreling into the wall. And it is our first full safety car, our second safety car period of this Grand Prix. A very odd incident. I am watching it back now. What on earth happened to Uncle Lando there? I'll try and get a replay up for you in a second. But it just looks like the wall sticks out a little bit more than Uncle Lando was expecting. And I'm glad I caught that one on stream, as that is Uncle Lando out of the race. An unfortunate incident, and he's not very happy about said incident. But it is what it is, and we are now down to 14 drivers here around Singapore. The McLaren was just made a couple too many mistakes, and that one mistake cost him his entire race. And so indeed not what he would have wanted to see in the safety car is indeed out now. I'm going to try and get a replay of the incident that caused that safety car up now as soon as I possibly can. So bear with. As you can probably hear in the background, by the way, my PC absolutely going mental. I'm not sure 100% why, but it is indeed going mental. It's very excited about the race that we have on offer here tonight. And it's lit up with the sparks from Uncle Lando's car. I think that's fair to be said. Unfortunate for him, and he now finds himself out of the race as... I'm going to try to full screen it. Fingers crossed this all works. As then we will get to see what's happened in the incident that caused this safety car. Uncle Lando just crashing by himself. As I just said, he was looking very feisty in this race. As this is the replay then. Uncle Lando just sort of driving into the wall unintentionally, and that ended the race. As we're all into the pits to switch off onto maybe another set of inters, probably another set of inters. No, dries. Dries for most. Dries for most. Maybe there's something that I'm not seeing here. Maybe there is, because it does look dry. So he said it would come mid-race. It's already here. The dry conditions. And it looks bone dry. Here in Singapore. So I look away for a second to try and get that replay. We come back to it. The rain stopped and it's bone dry. It said it was going to clear up about halfway through the race. We're only on lap 6. So it can't even be excused by that safety car. But that's it. That is it for the wet conditions, and now the dry conditions are upon us. As Uncle Lando just coming into the chat saying he locked up the front and slid into the wall. The contact was so weak, and it certainly did look. It did look weak. It should have been a front wing, not my wheel. Well, we will ride on board with Unksu as he comes up to the spot where Uncle Lando did make that contact with the wheel. Not sure what's happening with that, with the middle of that screen. But it does look like it just sort of comes at you in a way that may not be predictable. That wall, of course, it is what claimed Uncle Lando. Unfortunately, on reflection, because how that was a DNF, I'm not sure. Because I did see a clip of the wall. Just thought that might have been an end plate, not the entire thing. But yeah, that was spelling the end of the race for the man in chat. Nike Air Sack for the man in the race, Uncle Lando. And those who didn't come into the pits are now making their stops a lap too late, arguably. But Unksu and TKM are continuing on. So is Nutter. Well, it was caught on stream. I didn't see it straight away. But we got an action replay of what happened. And it looked very, very minimal. And very, certainly, unfortunate. The race situation has changed. In this one, we are now going for dry tyres and dry conditions. The only exceptions being the top 3 who've had the pace so far, and TKM, who sits in 4th, having made 1 pit stop so far due to contact. And the Red Bull has moved up 5 places from when he started. I think it's going to be absolutely swarmed after this safety car. I think this is a great opportunity for Ricky, and more importantly, for the one who predicted Ricky to be winning this race, which was Atsu in the chat. Not sure who that relates to. It might be somebody in here. Oh, Ashtube, surely. That must be Ashtube. Or I might just be being dense. There we go. It's just, it is what it is. We should be getting going once again after this safety car comes in at the end of this lap. Indeed, we are coming in at the end of this lap. And Unksu will lead us away in the Haas with Lone Star and Hector Ole and TKM sitting there all on intermediate tyres and relatively worn intermediate tyres on lap. Well, they're all on 6 laps apart from TKM, who's done 5. Interesting decision. I think it's fair to be said to stay out, but they just want that. They believe that track position trumps king, and they also don't think that the track is that wet because it did only rain for a small portion of the race, or sorry, that dry. But it did only rain for the small portion of the race, so it surely is not that bad. Loop Racer, 3-second time penalty under the safety car for extending track limits. Unksu will get us back underway here in Singapore. A bit of a wobble from Lone Star on the exit. A bigger wobble for MCH as he goes almost round. And, well, bit of an incident there, Gaming Infinity. Almost, well, I mean, he's surely been caught up in that. And Chuck Norris, who's come into the pits, has now retired from that session. And, well, just a little bit of controversy involving MCH. Just a slide on the exit on that safety car restart. And MCH now. Did the Red Bull sustain any damage? We will see. But a controversial moment involving MCH. And that is Gaming Infinity trying to get past Killer Zombie. Can he make that move? Stick Killer Zombie without a front wing end plate? Yes, he can. MCH, 3-second time penalty. And almost going to the wall. Surely there is damage there on that Red Bull. No, there is not. And so, very, very lucky not to sustain any damage from what looked to be a scary incident. Sticky Icky having grip problems. So maybe it is more difficult for those mediums and those hards than we expect. As Lone Star goes 4/10 quicker. So it is definitely a quicker circuit. Whether it is dry conditions or not yet, I don't think so. But MCH having that poor exit has cost a couple of these drivers time, and they're going to try to regain that now because, of course, MCH was in the middle of that pack. He was, though, not all the way up. Ricky is now the leader of the mediums. He was on that safety car restart 3.8 seconds behind. Beyond the bar coming into the chat saying, somebody take out Unksu. Well, at the moment, he might be on the wrong strategy if the safety car doesn't come out. There's yellow flags out once again for Sticky Icky, who's really struggling on those mediums. And I think it is wetter than it appears. By the way, Beyond, why are you not racing tonight? As that is Loop Racer going for a loop and just sitting there on that main straight, waiting for everybody to go past. Is there any damage sustained for that V-carb? We will see as we get to a better shot of the car as to whether there is any damage, and it doesn't appear so lucky for Loop Racer. But unfortunate that there was an incident to speak about in the first place. The closest battle on track is Unksu and Lone Star, the top 2 drivers. Lone Star just under 3/10 behind. These two were matched on pace at the start of this race. As Sticky Icky picks up a 3-second time penalty. And I believe will be lapped if he doesn't, well, if he doesn't retire or significantly pick up the pace. Have to send my wheel back to Moser. Keeps disconnecting. The quick release is broken. I'm surprised by that, actually. Out of a Moser wheel. Normally that's a Fanatec issue. But I'm surprised about that. I was looking into wheels a few months ago. I was going to get a Moser, but the Thrustmaster TSXW was just a bit more to my liking. Mainly because of the compatibility to Xbox, mainly because I had a Thrustmaster before. So it was just like comfortable. And I knew what I was doing with that wheel. But yeah, Moser. Surprised it. That's actually the first time I've heard of somebody having problems with a Moser ever. Beyond with money is everything possible now. Oh no. Well, this could cause an issue. This is an issue, I hope, only for me. No, I hope it's not only for me. I hope that somebody else has disconnected. But I fear that is not the case. I fear that I am out of this session by myself. I've never had a disconnect before. But the other day, I had 2. And then I didn't have any. And I've had one again. So significant apologies for this. I'll try and get back in as soon as I can. But for the moment, an intermission screen. We'll come back. Ladies and gents, good news for you. I'm back in the session, courtesy of Uncle Lando, who's sticking around. But, yes, we will be back in the session. We will be getting the action back underway for this race and for the Singapore Grand Prix that we are just a few laps into now, 11 to be exact. And the closest battle is the one for the lead between Unsu and Lone Star. 5/10 separates the 2 drivers. And we will see. Now it's actually 2/10, so he's closed in down that straight, has Lone Star. DRS will be available within the next couple of laps, if not already, as Unsu is starting to struggle with the grip on those intermediate tyres. Loot Racer makes his way past Killer Zombie as he tries to climb his way back up the field. He had a spin in turn, or across, around the final corner, on the main straight. Whatever happened, he had a spin, and that meant that Loot Racer was just... he was dropped down and out of the battle that he would have been in pace-wise, and the 3-second time penalty as well did not help him. The top 3 will all be within DRS range of each other when it once again activates, but Lone Star now actually out of that DRS range, so he's going to try to claw his way back in. Teamwork could play into it with Lone Star and DXLA. The same team up to a different one, and he's going to now try to break away now that he's got that opportunity. Looked on Reddit, and I don't seem like the only one with issues. Good thing he chose Thrustmaster. I would wait with Moser if they've gotten big too quickly. Well, I don't disagree with the fact that Moser, I think, have gotten big too quickly as TKM coming into the pit. Another set of mediums. Gets strapped on that Red Bull card. Was he not on mediums already? No. He's coming from the Inters. That's interesting. So we have actually had our first driver coming from the Inters. Apologies for that. I'm thinking of MCH. But we have had our first driver coming from the intermediates to the mediums on pace, and he's going to come out ahead of Loop Racer in P number 9, possibly alongside Loop Racer, but no, he comes out just ahead of the V-car. But yeah, I think Moser did get too big too quickly. I might wait another year or 2 to get a Moser wheel, but it's fair to say that they've got the best wheels. If they work, they are the best wheels on the market. Thrustmaster just like a reliable option. Plus, I need it for like, I do rally and, whoa, big slide for TKM and Loop Racer out of the corner. But I do rally, I do a lot of like GT stuff. And for that, it's perfect because I haven't got the F1 wheel add-on. So, for now, it's exactly what I need. Loop Racer and TKM close to each other, making the same mistakes. And so, Loop Racer hasn't really been able to get close on the other half of that. On the other hand, TKM hasn't been able to break away. Unksu and Diectourlay both come into the pits. And they will be switching onto mediums as Ricky sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, 37.7. And we'll see where the two race leaders come out. They've been well, Lone Star continues on for another lap, but two of the three race leaders. We'll see where they come out. They come out behind Ashtube, maybe even behind ARL. I believe ARL is going to split the two now as they head through turn number 1. No, Unksu is just about behind as DRS is enabled, and that is perfect timing for Unksu, who's going to get that DRS and will surely try to get past ARL just by the end of this straight already. It's the second of 3 straights where they're going to get DRS. This is the first time they've got DRS on this lap, though, and he's going to try to close, pull to the inside, but stay behind ARL, and 1.9 seconds separates ARL and Ashtube. So the targets are very clearly aligned, and Unksu is chasing Diectourlay, 2.2 seconds behind Unksu, and he'll be hoping that ARL is able to hold up the hat as much as he possibly can. Lone Star will surely come into the pits at the end of this lap. He's 11.1 seconds ahead of Ricky Maru, and another 11 seconds back to Ashtube. So I think he's going to slot his way right in the middle of that fight. We'll see. There's one more braking zone that he just heads through now. Does he struggle for traction? Not really. I think he's just lifting off just that little bit as, yeah, there we go, into the pits. And that is a big slide for Lone Star coming in and actually retires from the session. Oh, no. That is devastating stuff for Lone Star, who just takes that pit lane entry too quickly. And it's our second full safety car of the race. And it's a devastating time for Unksu and for Diectourlay, who've only just come into the pits. Ashtube with a drive-through for speeding under the safety car. It's all kicking off here under the lights. And Lone Star, our race leader, retires from the session. Unksu will take that lead, so will Diectourlay. So this has worked out actually quite well for them, as they are now in the race lead with tyres not that much older than everybody who comes into the pits. MCH, I believe, has continued. Indeed, he has. He's in P4 on those hard compound tyres, but they're 8 laps old, and surely that is too old for these tyres. He's the only one to continue, as even Loop Racer comes into the pits. Killer Zombie 10 second speeding in the pit lane. It is all kicking off here, and this is going to be absolute carnage. It's going to be a good opportunity for Sticky Icky to climb back into the battle for this race. He's currently a minute off, and it's an opportunity now for the man who's running hard, who's surely going to run those hards, or he's going to at least attempt to run this hard to the end of the race. Surely this is a great opportunity for him to strike. The wheels are great, but the software... Going back to the wheel conversation, Bjorn. The wheels are great, but the software and issues are the only problem if that gets fixed. Best option on the market, definitely. As Killer Zombie, another 10 second. It's racking up now for the McLaren, who sits down in P10. Yes, I think... Give them a year or so. They'll get that software, and they will be the best wheel on the market. At the moment, I think Thrustmaster is the most solid option. Fanatec always has reliability issues, from what I hear. And I believe those are the 3 major players. Who am I missing? I'm missing someone. But yeah, Thrustmaster is just a solid option. Bjorn is turning into Ted Kravitz here. He went into the voice call with the drivers. Apparently a glitch with Lone Star. He didn't do it himself. I'd like to see that replay, I will say. So if Lone Star, you're watching this, or if Bjorn, you want to pass the message on to Lone Star, that But, well, if we can get that clip in, that would be great. This is what I'm trying to say. And I might actually go and ping him. But lap 15 of this race, we're almost at the halfway mark. Unsu has had the pace over the field, but Ricky Maru, sitting in P3, has the slightly fresher tyres. MCH had a half spin on the, or a full spin actually, on the last safety car restart. And we're hoping that that doesn't happen once again. Hopefully getting going this lap, probably getting going next lap, I think is the synopsis for this safety car. He's a Scouse, don't believe Lone Star. I'm not going to repeat that last bit because I don't want it to get clipped out of context. Yes. I mean, I won't take what he says as gospel, but that's nothing to do with him being Scouse. It's more to do with I know what drivers are like. He's strapped in the sympathy. Fair enough. That's fair enough. And hopefully we'll get that replay on stream at some point. It did seem to have a little bit of a lull in the race before that, as the closest drivers together were Unsu, Dek, Teole, and ARL. They were trying to chase the Alpine. But we will see as the safety car will come in. Next lap now, as we're still waiting for Nutter and Sticky Icky to catch up. Sticky Icky, who is benefiting from this massively. He was over a minute behind, and he has now been able to close back in, or he will be able to close back in at the end of this lap. He's the only driver not to have done that yet, as Nutter rejoins the DRS. DRS is what we will have from minute 1 after this safety car, by the way. And, oh no, lap 2 after the safety car, almost minute 1. So we will see, as we've got some football chatter going on in the chat. Final number 1 is an interesting take after the representation that PSV gave Dutch football up the other day against Arsenal, but I shan't comment any further on that because football is not my strong suit. I actually went through a period of supporting Sunderland. I don't know why. I just chose Sunderland. I went through a period of just choosing a team, and Sunderland was one of them. So ask me about 20. When would it have been? 13, 20, no, maybe a bit later. 2015, 2016 Sunderland. And I can tell you all about Connor Wickham and the fact that I bought a shirt with Wickham on the back and then he left. I got given a shirt for Christmas with Wickham on the back. And then he left to Palace in a January transfer window. And I was devastated. I also got a Match Attacks card. I think my mum spent about £2 on. You know, for Connor Wickham, it's a steep price. But, you know, ended up being very happy with it. No idea. Couldn't tell you where it is now. But, that's fine. Are those the current scores? Are those the current scores? A final 3-0 up. No, I'm being stupid. You've said final 3. I'm being stupid. Error. Okay. But yeah. If only they didn't lose to Inter. I was being entirely stupid, so apologies for that. Yes. I was gonna say, because I was like final 3 Bayern 0, and then I saw that they were against City and AC Milan as well, and decided I was just being stupid. But they also lost to Inter 2-0. Safety car is coming at the end of this lap. Killer Zombie, another penalty headed the McLaren's way. 3 seconds this time. Needs the second driver to get one in that same sort of section as we're getting ready to go under the safety car. And Unsu will lead us away. Ashtube trying to get past MCH, trying to take advantage of maybe a slight issue for MCH on the exit, but unable to. There's a fight now for the final position for the wooden spoon, and Sticky Icky comes out on top of that one, looking further back up now as Ashtube tries to shape up a move on MCH. MCH, the only driver to not have come into the pits either the lap of the safety car or the lap before that. He's going to be under pressure from Ashtube on the fresher and softer tyres as we head now through the first sector here in Marina Bay. But he's going to sit behind, and Ashtube will look later on to make that opportunity, or try to force an opportunity that needs to be taken if he wants to fight for that podium, as it's 1.3 seconds between MCH and Ricky Maru for third and fourth. But it is what it is at the moment, and the gap is ever increasing between MCH and Ricky. It's now up to 1.9 seconds, so the safety car restart once again for MCH, being pretty poor. And it's a send to the inside for Ashtube. Can he get through? Yes, he can. That's a clean move, and the exit for MCH just means that he's able to ward off ARL for now. ARL, who's now coming under pressure from TKM. It's Acronym City here in Singapore. And ARL holds on to that P6 for the time being. Dector Olay might come under pressure from Ricky Maru, who's coming into the battle for the lead of this race. He could be under pressure very time soon. That's not a sentence, but sometime very soon is what I meant to say. As Unsu comes across the line with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix at 32.5, which is impressive considering that he started this one. Well, he started this one off and he had the safety car for companionship around the final corner. We are now watching with MCH, who's now 1.7 or 1.8 even seconds off of Ashtube. So the pace for those hards is not it after that safety car restart, and he's going to have to rebuild from the ground up as Ashtube has 2.7 seconds now to gain up to Ricky with that DRS as well. That's going to be a difficult task. ARL getting past MCH. He's going to be the latest driver to try to close the gap to the driver in front, and 1.6 or 1.9 even is what he's going to try to do as TKM tries to become the latest driver, but he comes under pressure from Luke Racer, who gets through into P7, and it's now RB, or Red Bull, RB, Red Bull for 6th, 7th, and 8th, but Luke Racer is hoping to change that very soon. So's TKM. They're hoping that it turns into MCH dropping down as the safety car restarts. That was not it for MCH, this strategy today, and he's already dropped out of the DRS of ARL. He won't have it down this straight. There's yellow flags out as Gaming Infinity, the latest driver to lose just a bit of their front wing. Both end plates off for Gaming Infinity, and Sticky Icky making his way past JSC Nutter into P number 11. Luke Racer going for a move on MCH around the outside. MCH is going to give him enough space, and much later on the brakes for Luke Racer. And that is a pretty one and done move. TKM trying to take the opportunity on exit to get through, and indeed he does as Ricky Maru with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Ashtube comes into the pits. Was there damage sustained on that last lap for the V-Carb? We'll see as he comes down. And we'll also see TKM get past Luke Racer with that DRS for P number 5. Does Ashtube have damage? I've missed it. Literally, I missed the entire bit that I wanted to see. Drive-through penalty, was it? I think. That's what I would deem that as for Ashtube. A drive-through penalty for the V-Carb served. And Luke Racer. Yes, of course it was. Oh, I'm being slow again. Need some sleep, I think. But there was, of course, a drive-through penalty for Ashtube, who he's now served. He was in P4. He drops to P11, and the race is now back on as Luke Racer gets back past TKM for P number 5. The top 3 are separated by under a second. Dector Olay are just under 4 tenths, or just under 5 tenths behind Unsu. Ricky Maru just over 4 tenths behind Dector Olay. And these top 3 are set to scrap it out for the rest of the race. Don't forget as well that Ricky has a 3-second time penalty, so he has to gap these two if he wants to take that victory with 12 laps to go in this Grand Prix. And a big lockup maybe for one of the 2 top drivers could open up an opportunity for Ricky. I believe it was the Dector Olay who had the issues, and Ricky now right all over the rear of that Mercedes as Unsu picks up the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. But the slipstream effect for Dector Olay, as well as that DRS, as well as presumably a setup, means that he was able to hold on to that P2 for now. And it's only a matter, I think it's only a matter of time before Ricky makes his way through, as that's another small lockup for a Dector just there. And Ricky just trying to close in, but Dector Olay closing in on Unsu. And I think he's going to try to make that move a bit earlier than he possibly should be making it. Just because he will want to gap Ricky. He knows how quick Ricky is. And, well, he just sits behind Luke Racer 3 seconds, up to 9 now in his desperate attempts of defending P5. And at the moment, with those 9 seconds, he will drop all the way down to, trying to work it out, 5, 6, 7, all the way down to P number 9, possibly P10. But I think it would just be P9. But at the moment, defending P5 on track. For the RB, he would be dropping almost to within range of his teammate, who's now 5.3 seconds behind Gaming Infinity after a drive-through penalty. Went the RB's way as Ricky just goes into the back of D'Etole, and that is an end plate off for the Ferrari, and that could be huge for Ricky Moreau, as now he's almost out of the DRS. And fastest lap once again for Unsu, but with that front wing end plate off, with how high the wings have to be here in Singapore, I think that could be game, set, and match for Ricky Moreau in terms of the battle for that race lead. And yeah, definitely he's losing a lot of time here. And third place will be sealed for him, which means D'Etole has free reign to attack Unsu as much and as hard as he can. And at the moment, he's just sitting behind TKM, sitting behind, well, he's sitting behind Luke Racer with that DRS closing in, but not quite closing in enough. The DRS zone's nicely spread out here in Singapore, so we shouldn't be seeing too much slipstreaming going on. Bit of water in the voice box, but we're back with D'Etole 5 tenths behind Unsu. He's just going to try to keep behind his message retracted. Okay. Not sure what that is. I will be able to see in the app in a bit, but I cannot be bothered right now. I'll have a look after that. But D'Etole 6 tenths now behind. Unsu just seems to have that pace at the moment as we head into the final third of this Grand Prix. Unsu will be taking the championship lead with victory here today. To be fair, he'll be taking the championship lead regardless, because the championship leader, Callum, not racing tonight. TKM makes his way through on Luke Racer. That is P5 headed back to the Red Bulls camp, and Luke Racer will try to fight this back down the main straight. We know that even though he does have lots of penalties racked up to his name, 9 seconds, in fact, he's still going to fight this one. He's going to fight this one as hard as he would if he had 0. But yes, Unsu will be taking that championship lead if he's able to finish. Ooh, as Luke Racer going for P5, making that move stick, and I'm trying to make that maths work. It's P4 and above, or P5, the fastest lap for Unsu. Am I doing that right? Am I doing the maths right? He's 11 points behind championship lead, in any case. Killer Zombie losing the position to Nutter. He could be maybe shaped up a move as Nutter runs wide out on the exit, and Killer Zombie sweeps his way around the outside line and retakes that P number 8, but goes off circuit, and Nutter could be shaping up a move back down the inside into the sling. No, he isn't, but so late breaking move for Nutter as he saw Killer Zombie struggling under traction. Doesn't come off Luke Racer and TKM swapping once again, but we're watching the battle for P number 8. And we're watching the battle between Killer Zombie, Nutter, and now Gaming Infinity, and will be in a couple of laps time, or maybe even a couple of corners time. Ashtube, Nutter diving to the inside line. He will make that move stick on Killer Zombie, just cutting him off on the exit, and that means that Killer Zombie's momentum is broken. That opens up the door for Gaming Infinity to get through into P number 9, and it's a swap for those drivers as Ricky just picks up the 3-second time penalty, taking his way up to 6 seconds now. Not where he would have wanted to see, because he will now drop behind ARL, although ARL with a 3-second time penalty. Just demonstrating at the moment that you want to stay penalty free, and Unsu and D'Etole, they've both done exactly that. Luke Racer and TKM will continue to swap positions despite Luke Racer's 9-second time penalty. They have, though, been able to gap MCH behind, so Luke Racer will only be dropping to P number 6 with a 9.3 second gap back to MCH in 7th place. We are on lap 23 of 29, or 29? What am I talking about? Gaming Infinity and JSC. Nutter swapping Astube, trying to get involved as well. He thinks he's quicker. He knows he's quicker. And he's just got to cycle his way through. He's past Nutter. That is one driver ticked off. And Astube is the next one up. No, Astube is him. Gaming Infinity is the next one up as they head down the straight. I think he's going to try to make this move pretty promptly here as soon as he can. DRS will come to his aid down the straight, and he's closing in 2/10. Now just the one. Is he going to dive to the inside line? No, I think he's going to wait for that main straight once again for Astube to make that move on Gaming Infinity. He's not picked up a penalty at the moment, apart from the one that cost his race for the podium. That was a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car, or maybe under the real safety car. Either one. Either way, he sped under safety car conditions, and that means that he had to drop all the way back. DRS means that he will climb back up to P8, but now the task becomes steeper. 5.8 seconds to MCH, and then just under 11, which is almost insurmountable with 7 laps to go in this Grand Prix. I think Astube is just going to have to pick up the pieces and be happy with where he finishes. I'm sure he will be, because no points last time out. So he'll be happy to get some on the board. Director lay closer than ever to Unsu. He was just 1/10 behind, but maybe issues in their hairpin for DXLA. Maybe outbrake himself, which is why they got so close. Means he dropped out of the DRS of the Haas driver, and this is the opportunity now. What has Unsu got in terms of being able to break away? Has he got enough to maintain the gap above DRS? The answer is no, with DXLA's superior straight line speed. And he will have the DRS down the main straight once again as we head on to lap 25 in this Grand Prix of 31, not of 29, as I mentioned before on DXLA. Still continuing to close that gap at the top. Ricky Maroon now not having the opportunity to fight for it. Not a drive-through penalty, a driving issue with a missing front right wing end plate, as well as 6 seconds worth of penalties, is costing him a hell of a lot of time. And well, he's leaking it to Director Ole and Unsu just ahead, and also ARL, who is damage free behind in the Alpine. He has got a 3-second time penalty, but he's gaining enough on the next few laps, and if he can do just what he's done already, he will be within that podium spot, the final podium spot heading ARL's way, which will be so much better after last week when he's faced significant disconnection issues. But at the moment, P4 is where he sits. TKM is in P number 6, right behind Luke Racer, and will try to make that move. Then the next battle is 8th, 9th, and 10th Astube. Luke Racer's teammates fighting for it, with Gaming Infinity and Nutter keeping him honest, as I will be able to bring you in a couple of seconds Lone Star's point of view from the DNF that caused the second full safety car of this race. I'm just watching it myself. F124, everybody. F124 for you. Loki looks edited. I mean, I'd be impressed if he could edit like that. Edit it that cleanly. But, there we go. That is the reason that the man that was once in our race lead crashed out of the Grand Prix. And now it is just a 2-car battle instead of a 3-car battle for that race lead. We had Lone Star fighting for it before the safety car that he caused. We had Ricky fighting for it after the safety car caused by Lone Star. But ever since then, it has just been a 2-horse race. And Unsu has just had enough to ward off Director LA so far in this race. They've both gone for identical strategies. One stop onto the medium under the safety car. And no, before the safety car even, these two came into the pits, and they've just been able to play it to their advantage. And I think Unsu will be holding on to this race lead simply because DXLA doesn't seem to quite have enough in the corners. He's got more down the straights, which means he's quicker, but he has less in the corners. Astube, right behind MCH, finally been able to bridge that gap, and he should be able to take this position nice and simply, should the man in 8th place, as he maybe looks to the inside line, or maybe just waits for the DRS to become available as MCH is on 7, no, not even 7, 8 lap older hard compound tyres. Astube pulls to the outside line now and has the grip to make that move stick, but outbrakes himself on the exit, and he's going to have to fight this one harder than he thought, but now he's made that move, and it's actually allowed Gaming Infinity to pull alongside and to try to pull ahead, but MCH just squeezing him too much for Gaming Infinity's liking, and he stays in P8, at least for now. Astube has 17 seconds to catch up to TKM with 4 laps to go, so I'm thinking, barring a miracle, that's not happening, and the battle for P5 will wage on with TKM, knowing he doesn't really need to fight Luke Racer with all those penalties. 9 seconds worth, so remember Astube, you only need to gain on these two, well, by 2 seconds a lap, but it is what it is. Gaming Infinity makes his way past MCH into the number 8. MCH is going to try and use the slipstream to fight back, but those tyres just aren't giving him enough bite. And he's going to stay behind in P9 probably for the rest of the race, unless he's overtaken by Nutter, in which case he will move even further back into P number 10. So not the day that the Red Bull would have wanted, and he currently sits within points, which is an improvement on last week, and I think he's going to get those points with Lone Star, Chuck Norris and Uncle Lando, the 3 DNFs, Killer Zombie and Sticky Icky, the 2 outside of the points. They are 11.9 seconds off of JSC Nutter. And so it's almost nailed on points for these down the bottom. DRS is available for Nutter, but not for MCH. Oh no, it is quite just about available for MCH. Gaming Infinity has been able to break away now from that DRS, but he has also lost that DRS to Astube ahead in P7, who is now trying to close in on the cars ahead, but just doesn't have enough in him. TKM over 4 tenths behind. This will close into about 2 tenths down the end of this straight. That sort of gap won't matter until you get on to about lap 30, lap 31, where they do start to try to fight for position. And TKM right on the rear of Luke Racer at the moment. Maybe shaping up a move to the inside line, but that momentum was broken by the fact that he pulled out off the slipstream, and he's going to have to try to work it around all over again as Untsu breaks that DRS to Director LA up ahead for the battle between first and second place. And I think that's going to be all she wrote for the battle for the lead. Sticky Icky makes his way past Killer Zombie. Zombie must have had issues as TKM picks up a penalty. And so that is promising for Luke Racer. He's going to have to pick up a few if Luke Racer is going to be back into this fight for P5. As TKM currently sits on 3 seconds. Luke Racer 6 seconds worth. As well, he's got 2 laps to try to force him to make those mistakes and to force him to going off of the circuit. And I think they're both just going to play it safe now to the end. And 5th and 6th is where they're going to seal with Astube 16.9 seconds now behind, so catching, but not at enough of a rate. Gaming Infinity as well, keeping him honest with those hard compound tyres, and especially considering those hards will be lasting towards the end of the race. The mediums will drop off a little bit, and these hards on the Red Bull will certainly be dropping off as JSC Nutter becomes the latest driver to get past MCH. Now, it's 12 seconds back to Sticky Icky, so unlikely that there's going to be a switch from here on in, with both of them with 3 seconds worth of penalty. Killer Zombie, by the way, just about 7 seconds, I believe, off of receiving a disqualification with 2 drive-throughs and a 3-second time penalty. So really, really not been his day. I hope to build up again next week and come back better. Next week, by the way, that will be traversing the Melbourne City Circuit, the Albert Park Street Circuit. A very, very, very good track for racing, and one that, especially in this league, we should be seeing a lot of action. As Gaming Infinity to the inside of Astube on lap 30 makes that move into P7. Astube won't mind that, because he's going to try and stay behind and take that move in one of the last 3 DRS zones of the race. Or these 2, as we have 5 left for these 2 drivers. As, well, here's Astube opening up that DRS. Does he close? Does he overtake? Does he even attempt to close? As he indeed does, but staying behind seems like a good plan. And that is exactly what he does. So just a reminder then of the calendar We have had Las Vegas last time out. We have Singapore going on at the moment, and we're almost at its end. And then we have Melbourne coming next week. Shanghai will follow with the Lusail International Circuit, round number 5. And then Suzuka, Bahrain, Jeddah, Interlagos, and then Miami will round us off in May with a double points race to decide our championship. So make sure to stick around for that when somebody will take that title home. But to be fair to Unsu, he's had the pace in the first 2 rounds, and he certainly had the pace today. He came under pressure from DXLA and Lone Star. Lone Star picked himself off, or the game picked him off for Unsu, and DXLA just lost that DRS, and that was that for the battle for the lead of the race. But Unsu still had to keep that consistent pace up throughout to take this race victory. And I think it's going to be, well, it's a formality from here on in. He just needs to just get through the final sector and a half without crashing. And this is victory taken home. And the championship lead taken home as well to the Haas team. Of course, he has benefited from Callum not racing this evening and from Uncle Lando crashing as well. But you've got to show pace to be up there at the top. Uncle Lando was not up there at the top, and I believe Unsu would have taken that race lead anyway, as his teammate loses the position to Astube finally with that DRS in the second of the 3 DRS straights that Astube will have. He's been able to make that move stick. Gaming Infinity trying to hold the line around the outside, but Astube in the end holding on to that position. And Astube, I think, is just going to put on a strong defensive drive as Gaming Infinity's teammate Unsu will come up to the line and take victory here in Singapore for round 2 of this International Racing League season. He will take the championship lead home now. And what a performance he has put in. DXLA in second place, and Ricky Maru suffering issues, and so he will drop off from that podium. ARL will snatch it away in P3. 15 seconds in the end is the classified finish, with Luke Racer finishing P5 on track, P6 off track, with TKM passing him after penalties. Astube defending away ahead of Gaming Infinity, and the Haas car is running out of time to make these moves. And I think Astube is just going to hold on to P7 in this one, and the penalty-free drivers will come up to the line, and Astube will take victory in that battle, will take P7, his teammate P6, and the man that he beat out Gaming Infinity were his teammates. His teammate took that race victory. Nutter and MCH, the final points finishers, Sticky Icky and Killer Zombie, the final classified finishers in this race. But what a performance from Unsu. He will now take that championship lead away. I believe he is the second driver in 2 races to take home all 26 points. But we will see when the fastest lap graphic flashes up as TKM picks up the fastest lap of the... Well, not... What am I talking about? He's picked up the driver of the day, but the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, which is clearly on my mind. Heads to, as I wait for it to load, I believe Unsu. But I would just like to check that information as they celebrate on the podium. It is indeed Unsu. And it's raining once again. The irony. The irony. But a wet to dry race. It came a lot earlier than we thought it was going to. But Unsu in the end taking that victory away from DXLA, who had the same pace. But towards the end of the stint, Unsu just pulled away. Final results confirmation, then Unsu taking victory ahead of DXLA with ARL in third. Then it's Ricky, TKM, Loop Racer, and then Astube just fending off Gaming Infinity with JSE Nutter and MCH rounding out the points. Then it's Sticky Icky and Killer Zombie, our final finishers before Lone Star, Chuck Norris, and Uncle Lando, who retired from the session. Lone Star in definitely interesting circumstances. But thank you very much for joining me today for what was a very exciting race around Singapore. What a very differently exciting race, where it was just more a strategy game than anything else. And in the end, it was topped by the 2 that came into the pits just before the safety car. And DXLA's teammate crashed into the wall. But not that I'm accusing him of anything at all. Anyway, before I work myself into a hole, this is where I shall end off. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. See you again next time.